In the labyrinth of political maneuvering, one idea has echoed through centuries, both praised and condemned, often framed as a rallying cry for ruthless pragmatism. The ends justify the means. But does this phrase truly encapsulate the philosophy of Niccolò Machiavelli, the 16th century Italian diplomat and political theorist whose name has become synonymous with cunning political strategies? The notion that any action, no matter how morally dubious, is acceptable as long as it leads to a desired outcome is often attributed to Machiavelli's writings, particularly his most famous work, The Prince. Yet, is this a fair interpretation of his views? And more crucially, how does this idea resonate with the political leaders of today who, in the pursuit of power or national interest, sometimes engage in actions that seem to disregard ethics in favor of expediency? To understand Machiavelli's stance on this idea, we must first delve deeper into his political thought, then explore how modern politicians justify controversial decisions, and finally reflect on the enduring relevance of this debate in our current political climate. Before diving into the intricate world of Machiavellian politics, let me extend a warm welcome to the unfolding journey. On this channel, we take a closer look at historical philosophies, political strategies, and the events that have shaped the course of human history. Whether you're here to gain insights into ancient political theories or to understand how these ideas still influence modern governance, you're in the right place. In today's video, we will explore the enduring idea of the ends justify the means and how it connects both to Machiavelli's writings and to the contemporary world. If you're passionate about history, politics, or just curious about how ideas shape the world we live in, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more engaging content. Let's begin our journey into the heart of political strategy. Machiavelli's The Prince is often interpreted as a manual for political leaders, teaching them how to acquire and maintain power by any means necessary. The idea of the ends justify the means is frequently cited as a key tenet of his work, and it's easy to see why. Machiavelli argues that rulers must be willing to do whatever is necessary to preserve their state, including engaging in deception, manipulation, and even cruelty if needed. However, it's essential to understand that Machiavelli doesn't necessarily endorse this behavior on a moral level. Rather, he presents it as a pragmatic approach to political survival. In The Prince, Machiavelli advises that a ruler should not be constrained by traditional moral values when it comes to statecraft. He argues that the successful ruler must be both a lion and a fox, strong and capable of using force when necessary, but also clever enough to manipulate situations to their advantage. Machiavelli famously writes, "The ends justify the means in the context of maintaining political power, particularly when it's threatened." He suggests that a ruler should be willing to act immorally when it serves the greater goal of securing the state. However, this doesn't mean that Machiavelli advocates for pure amorality. What he is advocating is a kind of political realism, where the ultimate goal is stability and security, and the morality of actions is judged based on their results rather than their inherent ethicality. His advice is, in many ways, a reflection of the turbulent political climate of Renaissance Italy, a time of constant warfare, shifting alliances, and unstable leadership. The phrase, "the ends justify the means," implies a utilitarian approach to politics, where the outcome justifies any method employed to reach it. While many associate this phrase directly with Machiavelli, it is essential to dissect what this idea truly means in the context of his work. In The Prince, Machiavelli does not give a blanket endorsement to unscrupulous behavior. Instead, he speaks about the importance of flexibility. A ruler, he argues, must be prepared to act with cruelty if it's necessary to achieve the stability of the state. For instance, he famously discusses Cesare Borgia, a ruthless leader who used deceit and force to solidify his power. Borgia's actions, while morally questionable, were effective in achieving his political aims, and Machiavelli praises him for the results. Machiavelli's stance can be understood as a matter of political necessity, not moral indifference. He seems to suggest that if the ultimate goal is the survival and prosperity of the state, then actions that might otherwise be condemned can be justified, provided they achieve this goal. But crucially, this does not mean Machiavelli endorses arbitrary cruelty or capricious behavior. Instead, he sees such actions as calculated and deliberate, aimed at achieving stability and power in a volatile world. Fast forward to the 21st century, and the echoes of Machiavellian thought can be seen in the political decisions of modern leaders. In democratic nations, The use of power is often legitimized through the rhetoric of achieving a higher good or ensuring national security. In recent history, political leaders have often faced the moral dilemma of balancing ethical considerations with the perceived necessity of bold action. Take, for instance, the controversial decisions made by leaders in times of war or crisis. The justification for the use of drone strikes, surveillance programs, or even torture in the name of national security often follows a Machiavellian logic. The perceived need to secure the state justifies actions that might otherwise be deemed morally or legally indefensible. This echoes Machiavelli's idea that the preservation of the state is paramount and that a ruler may need to employ unconventional means to secure it. One example that comes to mind is the War on Terror, which began after the September 11th attacks in the United States. The invasion of Iraq, the use of enhanced interrogation techniques, widely regarded as torture, and the extensive surveillance programs all sparked debate about the balance between moral principles and national security. Many of these actions were justified by leaders under the premise of protecting the nation from future terrorist attacks. In this sense, the ends, national security, and the prevention of terrorism, were seen as justifying the means, military intervention, surveillance, and controversial interrogation tactics. Similarly, consider the political rhetoric surrounding state-sponsored surveillance in democratic societies. Governments often justify the collection of personal data from citizens by appealing to the greater good of national security. Here again, the ends, protecting citizens from threats, are presented as a justification for measures that may infringe on privacy rights. This echoes Machiavelli's belief that, in times of crisis, the preservation of the state may require actions that are not necessarily aligned with traditional moral values. Yet the concept of the ends justify the means is not without its complexities. While Machiavelli may have been focused on the pragmatic realities of politics, modern leaders often face a balancing act between power and legitimacy. Leaders who push the boundaries of morality may win short-term gains, but they risk losing public trust, credibility, and even their position of power in the long term. In a democratic society, actions that undermine ethical standards can lead to public backlash and political instability. This is because democracies rely on a social contract between the government and the people, and when that contract is violated, it can provoke significant unrest. The idea of the ends justify the means also runs counter to democratic principles, where the means, how decisions are made, are just as important as the ends. This is where Machiavelli's advice takes a more nuanced form. He recognizes that a ruler's ability to maintain power is tied not just to their actions, but also to their image. If a ruler becomes known for cruelty or deception, they risk losing the support of the people, and this can ultimately undermine their own position of power. Hence, Machiavelli does not simply advocate for any means to achieve an end. He emphasizes the importance of understanding the context and the long-term consequences of one's actions. Machiavelli's legacy in modern politics is vast and complex. While many view him as a cynic who believed in the primacy of power above all else, a closer reading of his work reveals a more sophisticated approach to governance. He understood the brutal realities of politics, but also recognized the importance of maintaining the public's trust. Today, politicians who take Machiavellian approaches often face intense scrutiny. Their actions may be justified by the political context they find themselves in, but the moral implications of their choices continue to spark debates about the true costs of political power. Machiavelli's thoughts on leadership, morality, and power offer timeless insights into the complex relationship between ethics and politics. His advice remains relevant to contemporary leaders who navigate the often murky waters of decision-making, where the tension between the ethical means and the desired ends is ever present. As we reflect on Machiavelli's perspective and its relevance to modern political decision-making, it becomes clear that the question of whether the ends justify the means is far from simple. While Machiavelli's writings suggest a pragmatic, sometimes ruthless approach to power, they also highlight the complex interplay between moral principles and political necessity. In the world of contemporary politics, leaders must grapple with similar dilemmas, weighing the consequences of their actions against the ultimate goal of securing the state and maintaining stability. What's clear, however, is that the phrase "the ends justify the means" is not a universal truth, but a lens through which we can critically examine political behavior. Whether we agree with Machiavelli's approach or reject it, it remains an essential part of the ongoing conversation about power, ethics, and the nature of political leadership. In a world where leaders are often confronted with the choice between ethical considerations and pragmatic decisions, Machiavelli's teachings serve as both a guide and a warning. The actions of modern political figures, from military interventions to controversial domestic policies, continue to spark debates on whether such measures are justifiable by the outcome they seek. It's a conversation that remains just as relevant today as it was in Renaissance Italy, and it challenges us to think deeply about the costs of power, the role of morality in governance, and the ultimate responsibility of leaders to their people. As we conclude this exploration of Machiavellian politics and the idea of the ends justify the means, we are left with more questions than answers. Questions that we must continue to grapple with as citizens, thinkers, and participants in the democratic process. The balance between achieving goals and maintaining ethical integrity is a dynamic challenge for any political leader, and it's a conversation that will undoubtedly continue to evolve. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into Machiavelli's political philosophy and its relevance to modern politics, I encourage you to subscribe to The Unfolding Journey for more insightful content. On this channel, we regularly explore the intersection of history, philosophy, and politics, offering new perspectives on how the past shapes our present and future. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with our latest videos. And if you have thoughts or questions about Machiavelli's ideas, modern political ethics, or the phrase "the ends justify the means," feel free to leave a comment below. We'd love to hear your views on the subject and continue the conversation. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to taking you on more journeys through the fascinating world of political thought.